My name is, and your life is going to change. You are going to be dead, be dead. My name is, and your life is going to change. You are going to be dead, be dead. My name is, and your life is going to change. You are going to be different. You are going to be out. You are going to be bigger and larger than ever. Imagine the possible. And you know why? It's just you and I going to find the power that's just dormant inside of you all of the time. And all of this time, you will be brave. You go out no longer. Got even things. You will be sharp. You will be the God. When God is coming. You will be the one that everybody goes to and says, look, they're there. The master there. The teacher there. The truth there. The one that will make my life different. And would like to do that. Remember, trying to tell you. I'm here to tell you. I'm here to change your life. Your life will go up. Jesus and me together. I'm going to offer you. Before you know it, everything you imagine possible. Because possible for one simple reason. Anything is possible. Possible. My name is, and your life is going to change. You are going to be there to be there to be there. My name is, and your life is going to change. You are going to be there to be there to be there.
And welcome to another broadcast of Father and Son Theater, FAST, with Luke Gill, my son, and myself. And this is part of the Uncommon Sense series, where we're just experimenting with a new way of doing things, having a perspective of one who is experienced, quote unquote, experience, wise, etc., etc., etc. Again, quote unquote, and also from one who is quote unquote inexperienced, but experienced in other ways, but a millennial perspective. Let me welcome some people into the studio. Lawrence, welcome. He says hello to both of us, and your grandmother says hello to both of us as well. Hey, Mamji, you listen. Go ahead and watch the program. There's an echo on your side. I don't know why. Are you speaking? No. Are you speaking? Wait, no. Are you speaking in the microphone?
I believe so.
Bring it. Okay, bring it closer.
Yep.
And speak.
Can you hear me better now?
Much better. So you're gonna have to speak into the microphone.
Okay, not a problem at all.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's gonna be very difficult. I just turned on a show for your grandmother and grandfather. It's called The Old Guard with Charlize Theron on Netflix, and I told them to watch that, and they can watch this another time. But thank you anyway, Margie, for tuning in. So she may be doing. She may be watching both, I think. But there is some kind of an echo on your side. Maybe it's just me. I don't know, but it's okay. It's my hearing on this thing could be. Say a few things so I can hear myself and see if this is loud enough for me. Say hello.
Test. Is this still echoing?
Okay. Yeah. No. Now it's not. So I don't know what it is that did that. So today, let's pick up, Luke, where we left off. Elena Yakova just joined us in the group as well. Welcome, Elena. We are discussing various different things here and getting various different perspectives. We'll talk about love and betrayal. Is that what we left off on last time, Luke? How people tend to feel pain and suffering and da from it?
I don't remember exactly where we left off last time, but it is a great topic. So let's dive in.
We had a lot of people in the room.
Was it?
Yeah. And you know what? I also invited.
With all these new projects, my head has been spinning. I don't remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday.
Okay. Good. Depends on who cooks, right? You may not want to remember, but that's a different story.
I'm lucky over here, though.
Elena, yes, welcome, and she's good to be here. We had talked about various different things, and I think we left off not discussing finally the subject of being betrayed in a loving relationship. I think it had a lot to do with expectations and what we think is happening, and so on and so forth. But then again, when you are betrayed in a committed relationship as opposed to a relationship where you think you're going to be committed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make any sense to you?
I guess so. I mean, in some cases, I suppose one partner is more committed than the other. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, no. I'm talking about, say, in a marriage as opposed to boyfriend girlfriend sort of relationship. You know, Vin, welcome. Vin is listening to us from Perth. Papai's son is listening to us from Bangkok, and Ala Oisilem is listening to us from Philippines. Welcome to the show.
Beautiful.
We're talking about love and betrayal. We talking about betrayal and pain and how to heal, and we'll get over to the healing part in a bit. But sometimes betrayal can come in the form of a best friend, not just a partner or somebody else, maybe even a family member sometimes. And there are steps that people have to take. I know the last time I was quote unquote, I don't know if you realize that as I was growing through life. Now, I'm just curious, since we're just alone and nobody else is here. When I'm looking at you. Does it seem like I'm looking at you, or does it seem like I'm looking? Some people say look at the camera, but I can't do that because your face is here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at you, looking at me, and me right back there looking right at you.
No. Where's Ellie? I just needed to slap you for me for a minute. But I mean, do my eyes look like they're looking at you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And where's the camera? Up there. Does it look like I'm looking at you now?
Not any more than before.
What the hell?
Does it look like I'm looking at you?
Yes, it does. It looks like now you're looking to the side. Now you're looking at me. So now you're looking at me. Wait. Now you're looking at this side. See? Look where you were looking before. Like, okay, there.
Okay.
No. There. Stay there. Stay there for a minute. Now it feels like you're looking at me.
Okay.
But what are you looking at?
When it feels like I'm looking at you, I'm actually looking at me, which is a great metaphor for life as well.
Yes. Explain to everybody.
Well, I mean, we look for so many answers outside of ourselves when most of them lie within.
Heiko Selena says that, yes, the eyes look like they're looking at me. So we don't have to look at the camera. I don't know what that other idiot was saying before, saying, oh, you should look at the camera. You shouldn't look at me. But I said, damn, I can't do that throughout the whole show. It's going to be very difficult. So anyway, now that we've established that, what the hell did we start with? I'm sorry. Did we say something?
Betrayal. Yeah.
Yes.
Betrayal, love.
Do you remember the last time I decided to? I had lost touch with reality. I've been alone for a long time, and dalliances and and I decided, what was it, 4 years, 5 years ago, maybe even, to fall, like literally, just don't even think, fall, head over heels and with that one person who shall be nameless for now, and being betrayed, in ways you cannot even imagine. But then again, it's that's the nature of that person, and I think everybody should share the joy that she brings to everybody. And but at that time, I decided to do an experiment. I don't know if you realized it, but do you remember I was struggling with the book to write since 2000, after I finished Uncommon Sense, the book, writing it, 400 odd pages. I wanted to write Uncommon Love. And Sister Teresa Sue lived until 118, and then she finally died and said, fuck it, I'm just going to die. And she couldn't stay on. And she said, I've been waiting for your book. Every time she sees me, it's like, where's the book? I've been waiting to read your thoughts on Uncommon Love. and now I own the domain as well. But the book was finished because of that relationship. Did you know that? One day, I just had enough, and after I kicked her out of the house, or she left with with half our stuff and our kitchen and utensils and everything else. Do you remember all that? It was like starting from scratch. These are, what the hell? These are our stuff. Anyway, long story short, I sat in Costa, not the new Costa, but the old one where we were. I didn't bring any paper. I just had one folded sheet of something from the printer, and I didn't have any pens, so I had to borrow one from somebody at the coffee shop. I can't remember who it was. Victor it was. And I sat down and I started writing, and it was nonstop for 4 hours before you got up and came down and joined me. At that time, I don't know what you had dragged in. I'm not sure who was there. Well, regardless, that's not the point. The point is, I finished the whole book, Luke. I saw it from a perspective of being on the ground, because before that, writing Uncommon Love was like from a helicopter perspective, from a total distance of seeing everything, and not everybody has that ability. So I went down to ground level, felt the pain. Oh, and my God, it hurt like crazy. And I'd forgotten how much it hurts, and and everything else, and you're ripped apart and everything. So I wanted to see what that felt like, and I want to see how I came back, and so on and so forth. And so as a result, the entire book was written, just being fleshed out right now, and along with all the stuff what we're doing right now. We'll get to it, when the storm dies down. The reason I brought that up is because it gave me a lot of ideas about today's topic. What we think is betrayal may not be betrayal. It just may be life continuing. The person may not have, is not the kind of person that can be committed to one person, but needs several to validate herself or himself. And so as a result, they may be narcissists, where the whole world surrounds their needs, their wants, their desires fulfilled, assuaged, and so on and so forth. Or they may be very good at manipulating the situation in such a way that they have decided that you were there to fulfill their needs. That's it, period, end of story. That was your role, your function. And that somewhere along the way it was going to be a free ride. At least I think that's what that woman thought. Traveling around the world and this and that, she got halfway through. Not too many places, but enough. No, at least she got a good deal. And for me, I think it wasn't even a loss of money or air tickets or anything of that sort, or the pain, because a book got done. I mean, a book that would be helpful for a lot of people to deal with the same thing. Were you ever in a situation like that, where you felt, you don't have to be specific, you just say yes or no, and then tell me how you dealt with it. I dealt with it by writing a book. How did you deal with it?
On multiple occasions, I think I've dealt with that same kind of betrayal. Sometimes in the form of what I thought were some of the closest people to me. Some very close friends. Screwing me over in business. I've also had situations, in love, and I think it hurts more the more that you build that trust with someone, the longer that you're with someone, and the more that you picture that future with them, because it's a future that's built up in our mind, all these hopes, all these dreams, and in 1 second it can be completely shattered. And when I had that occur for me, I wasn't really into writing books. I kind of collapsed in on myself. But that was actually a blessing in the long run, because in collapsing in on myself and completely allowing myself to feel all that pain, it allowed me to take a closer look at myself. and why I felt certain things, why I thought certain ways. And, it really gave me the tools to build myself back up from the foundation.
Hmm. I was just listening, but I noticed my jacket is torn or something. Not sure
Oh,
what that is. I think it might be my shirt. So it gave you a form of self-realization that allowed you to see um, the relationship from a different perspective, right?
absolutely.
Um, Giliana from Italy says, "Thanks to you, I've learned to overcome the pain and to keep calm. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My absolute pleasure. And but my job is not uh, to keep you calm. If you are calm, my job is to disturb you. If you're disturbed, my job is to calm you. But now that you're calm, well, let's think about things that disturb you. I'll tell you why. Because in when you give your all in relationships, like 100%, without holding back because of fear, because of pain, because of past programming and all of that, then you have to be prepared for some kind of pain, because we're all very, very human. And so we've been quote unquote betrayed, but sometimes only in our minds, not anywhere else. And so we can imagine being betrayed, but we're not. It's just people doing what they do normally anyway. It's like having a pet lion, for a little while, and then stroking the lion. You're having lots of fun, and then all of a sudden the lion bites you, and you feel betrayed. But wait a minute, this is what lions do. This is normal. And so instead of being upset with them, you start to realize that you're flowing with nature, and not everybody is along the same lines of thinking as you. Or I'm not trying to think that we're this and they're that or anything of that sort. I'm not trying to do that, but some people are not at that same level of development mentally, emotionally. And you in particular, Luke, live the lives of 3, 4, 5 people, lifetimes, literally. You squeeze so much in one that you feel as if you know more, and as a result of a lot of pain, whether it's imagined or not, whether it's real or not, makes no difference. The fact is, you went through the pain, and how you dealt with it was very important. True.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. When we stop having those expectations of other people, and start seeing the lions for lions, it's like the tale of the scorpion and the frog that you tell in your seminars.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Tell
And
the story so that people will know what we're talking about. But let's welcome Alberto Pizzo. If you
Berto,
are
good to see you.
if you are watching from Italy, buonasera. If you're watching from Japan, I don't know where you are right now, then not konnichiwas. What's evening? Good evening in Japan.
It's been a while since I've been to Tokyo.
Alberto will tell us what good evening is in Japan. Yeah, it's been a while since we've been there. Yeah, we'll get back there. So, sorry.
So the scorpion and the frog. There was a frog hanging out down by the river, and a scorpion needed to cross to get to the other side. And scorpion asked him for a ride, and the frog said, "But you're a scorpion. You're going to sting me." And um, the scorpion hopped on the back of the frog, and they traveled across the river. And halfway through, even though the scorpion had promised not to sting him, the scorpion went ahead and stung him, and the frog started to drown towards the, the end of the other side of the river. And as it was dying, it said, well, why did you sting me? You promised you weren't going to do that. I said, well, I'm a scorpion. That's in my nature. Um, and so, a lot of the time we blind ourselves to the nature of some people, and we place trust where we shouldn't place trust. And at the end of the day, we have to accept responsibility for that. And um, there's that saying, "Fool me once, um, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me."
Yes, absolutely agree. But also at the same time, when you have an ability, after having gone through a lot of experiences and all of that, you know that a person's behavior uh, rarely changes over time. Yes, they will change ultimately, and due to trauma or massive enlightenment or something. But seldom do people change. And if you want evidence of that, it's no more than in the probability thinking that we built up. That's also part of behavioral modification exercises like NLP and what's the other ones that cognitive behavioral therapy and all of this. It teaches us that the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And the kind of traits that surround the doing of a thing or feeling of a thing is probably never going to change, but it'll take time. And some people do as a result of wanting something different. And by attrition, all the bad things go down. But how do you deal with, as a psychologist, I can tell you that the way in which you deal with hurts or betrayals, or if you've been hurt by somebody, is to actually not keep the feeling nebulous. I've been hurt. I've been betrayed. What the hell does that mean? Because betrayal is an act, and the emotions that result from it are what we mean when we say we're feeling betrayed. Now, if you keep those emotions nebulous, like a cloud, then they will follow you, and you will eventually forget what eventually happened, what took place, that caused the betrayal, that caused the pain. And by keeping it nebulous like that, you will not recover from the act of somebody who did that. So in order to start recovering from this act, you must be more specific about the feelings that it has given rise to. Like when I sat in the coffee shop, was it 5 years ago, Luke? Or maybe about 5 years ago, feels like 5 years ago. I started to name what I was feeling here, inside my stomach. The acid started flowing. The thoughts were, the face started showing all of the emotions and everything else. And so, what emotions do you go through? Or specific feelings, and the more common ones are anger. You've been hurt. And one of the most natural feelings in that kind of situation is anger. How dare they do that to you? How could they? They'll pay for this, and you want revenge at some point. And one of the most deadly human needs is the need to get even. If you hurt me, I'll hurt you back, plus interest, and so on and so forth. You know how people have said, Luke, that if you love me, I will bring you a mountain. You know how people have said that? But if you betray me, I'll drop that mountain on your head. Have you have you heard that expression before?
Definitely heard that expression before. And yeah, I mean, it brings out a range of emotions. It can be anger, sometimes sadness, disappointment. And for those rare few who are really, really good at getting their revenge, it can bring out, joy, picturing the future.
Something to look forward to. Let me call my friends in Sicily. And Alberto, he knows some people. He will take care of you. No, that didn't even sound Italian. That sounded Bulgarian for a second. I've forgotten the Italian accent. Not to worry. No. Damn, I got to think of my friend Salvatore, Pasta Fresca from the Salvatore Carici. He said, "Don't worry. We have friends. We will take care of you." That still sounded Bulgarian for some reason. I don't too much time in Bulgaria. Well, anyway, some other emotions you could be experiencing is sadness. You might feel very low. Your self-esteem will drop. You become very weepy sometimes when you discover that somebody has betrayed you. And this might be because you feel a sense of loss somehow. like a loss of trust or a loss of the person to somebody else or whatever, and maybe the loss, maybe not so much of the person, but the loss of the idea of the person that you thought they were. So it could be the loss of the happy memories you have of them, maybe the loss of the future you have built with them, or loss of this, incredible things you thought you were going to be doing with them, but you didn't do. So that feeling of sadness is there. Another way you could say is one of those feelings that you could feel is surprise. Yes, you're probably shocked to find out that this person or persons have betrayed you, but you might not have any inkling that this was happening, and you sometimes are angry with yourself for not seeing it, and that surprise makes you very upset because you tell yourself, I should have known better. Who knows? It could even leave you with fear. You may worry about the consequences of this betrayal or pain or hurt, and it might even mean major upheavals in your life. Like, where am I gonna live now? The car that I've grown so used to taking me around, I don't have any more money. Whatever it is, all these unknowns scare you. At some point, when you're dealing with betrayal and a breakup in a relationship of some kind, you could even be disgusted. When you can't even bear to think about it or them. They may have slept with somebody else and so on and so forth. It makes your stomach churn. You want to go to the bathroom and just throw up. Some people deal with betrayal like that. Some people also deal with insecurity. You may question yourself. Am I good enough? Am I not beautiful enough? Am I too fat, too thin, too tall, too help me here, Luke, too bearded, too, I don't know. So you question yourself and you doubt if you're worthy of love and care. After all, the person who betrayed you clearly felt that you weren't up to their. I mean, why is there even somebody else? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
You're strangely quiet, though.
I mean, I think it all circles back to the same thought process, which is we're born into this world alone, and for the first part of our life, we're constantly reaching out for bonds to be made.
Yeah.
And initially it's with your parents. For most of us, when we reach 18, we're out of the parents' house, and now we're looking for someone else to live with, someone else to go on this journey with, and we're constantly looking for something concrete. But all the growth that we go through in our life is all going to be internal. It's going to be with ourselves, and we like to anchor the entire future on someone else when it's very difficult. But
sorry, I was just thinking as you were saying that, I say we leave our parents' house and it's comfortable and everything, and we get served breakfast and lunch, and now we find somebody else to serve us breakfast and lunch, and so we get to that person who makes everything for us, makes our bed, washes our clothes. I said, wait a minute, where are we headed with this one? It sounds a little bit like reality. But let's welcome Charn into the studio as well. Charn is from Thailand, and he says, hello, Dr. Melgill and Luke. And Lawrence, yes, Lawrence, that was the word I was looking for. Your self-esteem suddenly shrinks and it gets to be very low. Lucia from Brazil is listening to us as well. Just to let you know, she's a suggestopedic teacher, expert, and one of these days when all of this COVID stuff is over, you and I are going there to do some programs, suggestopedic like. We were talking about betrayal and shame betrayal and hurt, and we're talking about some of the emotions that people will feel. And I said that to be able to get over a lot of that. And to begin the healing process, you need to identify the emotion. And so Luke has been naming one or two, and I've been naming one or two. Let me add a couple more to those. Shame is something that happens as well, because you may blame yourself and feel ashamed by the thing that happened, and how others, when they look at you, may see you and treat you, thinking that you're the cause of it, and so on and so forth. And that, oh, wow, see, another breakup, see, you're not worth anything. And so your self-esteem and self-worth also takes a beating. But on top of that, the most powerful emotion you go through is betrayal, betrayal, loneliness, because the betrayal is yours and nobody else's. So how could anybody possibly understand? I understand how you feel. No, you don't, because you're alone. And then they walk off into the sunset with whoever they're with, but you're still left alone. And sometimes that will lead to confusion. So that may not simply be to comprehend what's happened. You don't know why it happened, what happened. None of it makes any sense to you, because the day before it happened, everything looked fine, everything looked easy, and so on and so forth. So it's a very important step to identify what it is you're feeling at any one time. And you may at that point feel maybe some of these feelings, one of these feelings, or all of them, after betrayal, because mostly when you start feeling it, you also feel it in a timeline. Sometimes you go back feeling anger, and then you go forward feeling lonely, and it goes back and forth, back and forth. You're in a massive state of upheaval and confusion, because sometimes surprise and confusion might be the first things you feel, which then give way to things like anger and disgust, and sadness and fear are usually put together as well. And then you return to a self-pity mode, and then you return to a surprise tinged with shame. You get the idea. So there won't be a clear or uniform progression from one to the other. It's not like the stages of grief. It's a turbulent maelstrom of emotions. And at that point, it allows you to see exactly how you're being affected by the person. Now, in my breakup, the last one that I can think of, Luke, it became something necessary for me to break through that emotional shell that was created from all of that, from 1996, when your mother and I did a little bit of an interesting split and stuff like that. So because the whole thing, everything I'm talking about, we have to deal with. It was real. It was very real. But in the middle of all of that was people I didn't want to be split with, which was you and Aurora. And so what do? I mean, as far as she was concerned, I could take her or leave her. It makes no difference to me. But for you and Aurora, it was a big difference. And I had to make sure that your psychology was intact. So I had to pull myself together by my bootstraps. And the only way to do that was sometimes, and here's another piece of advice, put some distance between you and the cause of that betrayal and the pain. And then you'll be able to see things a little bit better. Has this worked for you?
I think it's tough to say exactly what the cause of betrayal is in any one situation. But certainly everything becomes much clearer when you step back and you're not emotionally attached.
No, you're still emotionally attached, but geographically far, so that you maintain a perspective. Because if you're there every day, waking up with the problem, with the cause, with the center of the storm, then it becomes a little bit different. We want to get to the eye of the storm, where it's calm, I'm going to have a pronunciation issue tonight, because I've been up most of the night and finishing this guy's work that I said I was going to finish. It doesn't look like it's going to be done tomorrow, but what the hell? We'll get it done by Sunday.
No problem.
But
yeah, certainly. I mean, if in my past, when I've had some relationships go south, I've been betrayed, cheated on, and in those particular relationships, I found, when you're waking up next to this same person that completely betrayed your trust and had absolute no respect for you and your feelings, it's tough to try to carry on that day in the same exact way that you did the previous days. And it's, for you, I'm sure it was a lot tougher being, when you were still married, initially trying to make things still work. It's
Yeah, but that's all I heard. You faded up for like 5 seconds. What was that word?
It's it's a very tough thing, and
Oh yeah.
you're right about being too close to it sometimes. And
Yeah, it's true. Do you know, sometimes ritual helps you. When you have a ritual thing to end something, you do it with a ritual and you decide it's the end. It was necessary. I don't know if you remember, in Croton there was a place called Five Corners. Do you know Five Corners?
Right by the graveyard.
By the graveyard, yes. I parked the car at the library and walked down to graveyard. I was fully dressed in my suit with the tie and everything. Your mother had no idea what I was doing. Where the hell are you going? I gotta go somewhere. And I had a small bag of stuff in my hand. And something led me there. And I said, this needs to end. The pain needs to end. I need to get to Chicago. Breathe a little bit and see what I'm going to do next. And the focus is still on you and Aurora. And I think I'm being public about this for the first time. And with this bag of stuff, it's quite sizable, maybe about 8 inches by 8 inches in a cloth. And it was something special your mother had given to me, and with all the photos and in it, some of the valuable items. I thought I put my ring in there, but I think I didn't. I had taken it out because I think I wanted to save it for Aurora at some point, and she's wearing it around her neck, which is very cool. And a few other things as well. And things that were important to me, letters and everything. And massive betrayal. I dealt with it, and it's okay, no big deal. At that time, big deal. Now, no big deal. And I understand now from this, actually thanks to you, because of a certain therapy we'll talk about on Friday. Maybe we'll let's see. I keep forgetting I'm in Singapore, but we can't talk about those kind of things. But anyway, the point was that I was led up the hill under that big tree. Remember, it's on a slope, the graveyard. And I went to the very top, and I don't know why. And I stood there, and nothing was pulling me anymore in any direction. I turned around, saw the river. Hudson River was right there, clear view from the very top. I said, this is so beautiful. And I have to say goodbye to this. And I looked down, and I swear to you, you can still find it next time you get there. I should have asked you to go look for it. All the time, 3 months you were there. Should have done that, just dug it up. They would think you're digging up a body. But anyway, I brought this garden trowel, and between, and there was just 2 slabs of stone flat on the ground. It said, Father, Mother. I thought that was fairly symbolic. No dates, no names, nothing. Just that. And I said, how perfect is that? Because something broke in this thing because of the betrayal. So I dug deep, then saved the grass at the top, put it on top, and you could not have imagined somebody crying their hearts out, but I did, and it was done. And then things took a turn. Now it was healing time, so I needed to do a lot of things, and one of the biggest things I had to think about, and this is, as we speak, we're not giving a B, C, 1, 2, 3 way. We already talked about identifying the emotions. The next thing I need to resist was retaliate. Because with some betrayals, you may experience an urge to get revenge and to retaliate. My advice to you, don't. And I don't know what forces that spoke to me at that time and also said don't. I may be at that time feeling angry about what happened, I may feel like they deserve punishment of some kind, but rarely is this ever a very productive endeavor. In fact, you might end up in more hot water than you really want to be. So if there's one way to prolong the hurt and the delay and the healing process, is by plotting and planning your revenge. Don't do that. Because this is the number one relationship advice, whether you're dealing with a breakup or unsure about your feelings and deciphering your signals. Sometimes being with a relationship coach might help you because there's so many out there. Being with a psychologist is even better because the person can actually help you through that. So going through the feeling of the pain and retaliation, you may want to consider the analogy of betrayal as a cut or a gash on your flesh, your body. So a scab will form, as if you cut yourself over the wound, and then there's often a desire to pick at it, prod it, and you want to pull the scab off, and because it's itchy, it's sore, you feel the need to do something about it. But the more you pick at it, the more you think about it, the more you get back to it, the more you feel angry, and the more you feel as if you want some kind of revenge. And yet, from experience that the more you touch and pick at a scab, the longer it stays, and the more likely it is to leave a huge scar. So retaliation is a bit like that. Picking a scab, it'll only uncover the wound more and more and more and cause you further pain. So the more you do it, and when I say the more you do it, even the more you think about doing it, the more likely you are to carry that pain with you for the rest of your life. So resist the temptation to get your own back, because the feelings will eventually fade and pass, and you'll be glad that you held them off from inflicting similar suffering on your betrayer, because they don't need to do that. They were just, like Luke said, they were just being who they were, the scorpion, and you were the frog. No metaphor there intended in any way other than what it stood for, and what's the other thing that worked for me and worked for Luke, I imagine, as well, is to take time away, geographically move. You've been betrayed by somebody. The best short-term solution is avoid them as much as physically and now with your computers and everything electronically possible. Try and avoid them. Stop messaging them. That means not seeing them. Not what do you call it when people search their social media? Stalking. Stop stalking them. Because every 5 minutes wondering if they're with whom and what they're doing and where they are. I know that you like an analogy, Luke. So here's another one for you. Think of those feelings that we talked about, right? Earlier, when we talked about the pain, and think of them as fueled by a fire. At first, the fire burns very strong, and the feelings glow white hot in the flames. And the most combustible fuel for that fire is contact with the person who betrayed you. So in order for this fire to burn out, you need to break ties. You must stop adding fuel to it, and you need to break ties with that person. I think you've been through that. I don't know if you want to talk about that, because if they try to contact you, and probably they will, you can just tell them in a calm manner that you need some time and some space and to deal with what they have done, and ask them to respect your wishes and leave you alone. Your emotions will eventually begin to fade as the fire becomes mere embers, but now you'll be a much better position to think clearly and process the events. How do you feel about so far what I've talked about?
I can certainly see how it could apply in some situations. And, I have had certain individuals in my life before that I did need to take some space from, for my own mental and emotional health after, this storm that tornado-like storm they brought, into my life.
We don't have to name them. It's not necessary.
But, on the other hand, I think it also comes down to the individual and the situation. And I also have had cases where there have been some people close to me that have betrayed me, um, but not because they were bad people, not because they were wired that way. Um, and
They
simply
just
people that made a mistake for one reason or another.
they're
And
idiots.
well, yeah, absolutely. Um, everyone's on a learning curve. And in those cases, I think there is a mature way to grow together. And if you are able to, um, release those emotions and be willing to forgive, there is a way forward
The
without completely cutting
microphone
ties.
closer to your mouth,
Is this a little
because
bit better?
I don't know if it's the microphone there or because Josephine said the same thing. I cannot hear Luke so soft spoken.
Is it if I just talk a little bit louder? Is that better?
Yeah, but in the
Beautiful.
future, though, in the future, learn to use the microphone, the really good microphone on that table, because
You
then
know,
your voice will carry so clearly.
I'm still searching through all of these hard drives for the driver that'll allow it
Really?
to be used. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How long does it take? I mean, trust me, Luke. Look, ever since I invested in this microphone, my God, it's so much easier, and it's not so. And people will hear every little bit that you're speaking as well, because you are fairly soft spoken. But I think with some things you're fairly loud. I've heard you, because you're very confident about that. But somehow when we talk about broken relationships and things that cause pain, you start to go softer, softer,
Uh,
softer.
it's not that there's a lack of confidence in that area, but I'm
No
also
one said
very
confidence. It just
I'm also
does it.
very
Does it still
careful.
hurt? Does it still hurt?
It. I love the fact that even if I don't pick at my scabs, I have a brilliant psychologist with me all the time who loves to pick.
Yes, yes. Scab picking, one of my traits. I do it best. Do it best. I invited your sister on mm, because of this thing. I thought it would be the best person talk about.
Yeah, that would be a
Yeah,
great idea.
I did. I sent her an invitation, but I don't know if she reads Messenger. She's so caught up with, and when she talks to somebody, it's like blah 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 blah, and then she doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, she gets very busy, and with her artist mind, I mean, she gets caught up in a drawing, she can be in there for hours.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So,
And even the feelings sometimes. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
but it's
absolutely.
yeah. Okay, so
So,
talking about the scabs and all of that. Yes, examine the betrayal. Please do that. I mean, I'm not saying take your eyes off of the betrayal, Luke, because sometimes what I'm trying to do is not try to pick at your scab, but what I'm trying to get you to do is look at it, just examine it. That's why it sounds like I'm, well, what's it, always harping. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But I just want you to look at it, because people do hurtful things for all sorts of reasons, and it might help you to think about how the betrayal came about. What are the reasons behind it? Like you said just now, it's not because they're necessarily evil or hardwired that way, but they could be just stupid, or prone to making wrong life choices. Whatever wrong is anything other than you, the choice. I guess. I don't know.
yeah.
So was it, you ask yourself, was it carelessness? Was it caused by weakness in that moment, or was it a deliberate and conscious act? Um, we all sometimes say or do something in a split second and regret it. I know if you've heard me with a lot of people sometimes, and you see my face, the minute the words come out, I know straight away, oh shit, stop. And my mouth doesn't stop, it just continues. and then those people don't speak for me for weeks, which gives me an ability to write another book, which is very good. But those moments of peace are rare.
Yeah.
So a careless act of betrayal, such as maybe what could be revealing personal information someone told you in confidence, right? That's no doubt very hurtful, but it's somewhat forgivable, right? It can be easy when it's involved in a conversation to not be 100% focused on the importance of what people are saying, and things can really slip out sometimes by accident. Maybe, of course, the greatest significance of the information is that the less easy it is to believe that your partner or the person who betrayed you, the betrayer, revealed it by mistake, because they just weren't paying attention or something. But then again, some secrets don't come out naturally in conversation. You've had to purposely bring it up. Agreed?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I'm suggesting is that the next level up from a careless betrayal is one that comes about due to somebody's weakness. Say, for instance, some people find it incredibly difficult to control certain urges, even if they have promised you that they would stop da-da-da, but they continue doing da-da-da. I'll leave it da-da-da because it's safer. Is that okay?
Sure.
And addictions are a good example of this. You may, for example, feel betrayed by a partner or family member that said they'll give up drinking or da-da-da-da-da, something along that lines, only to find out that they've actually been doing it behind your back and lying to you about it, or, whatever. So you get the idea. Other people find it almost impossible to keep what you tell them confidential. You and I are related to a woman. We both know that if you want the world to know, you just tell her, and they just have to talk to somebody about it, and maybe it's a means of processing their own emotions. And so people talk. I know some people who have girlfriends, or in your case, in my case, for instance, we're talking about girlfriends, not boyfriends, right? And and so we have some people who have our quote unquote girlfriends have girlfriends, and they want to chat with them about it and things like that. It's like, excuse me, those are very confidential things that you don't discuss with strangers. So it still stings anyway whenever you find out, but perhaps you can have some sympathy because these people are like that. They need someone to talk to. They can't process things on their own. Right? True?
Yeah.
Right? Sorry, mosquito.
I think it's one thing to forgive, but you also have to, be conscious of that going forward. And if you find out that someone's like that, maybe they're not the best person to, share your secrets with.
Yeah. Come closer to the microphone, Luke. I'm also having trouble listening to you.
Is this a little bit better?
Much, much, much.
Beautiful.
Sorry, say that last sentence again.
It's one thing to forgive a small betrayal like that, but we also have to recognize how to carry forward in the right way. If you are going to forgive something like that, it's the once bitten, twice shy principle, and that's probably not the best person to share your secrets with.
Mm-hmm. True.
And we, I hate to say it, but sometimes forgiveness is not the same as putting it doesn't mean you put the same amount of confidence, the same amount of trust back into the person or relationships surrounding whatever the topic is, whether it's like you said, drinking, whether it's keeping secrets, and
you just withhold information.
Absolutely.
Because some betrayals, I'm talking about the betrayals that are plain and simple, deliberate acts of malice, heartless indifference, maybe the gossip that goes around, say, Varna, or in an office, say, for instance, you overheard somebody having a difficult time in their life, and then you proceed to tell everyone who will listen about their business, and that's malicious. Do you know what I mean? and you have to determine what is malicious and what is not. Either way, you want to be cautious. Maybe your partner cheats on you, or a family member belittles you in front of your children, or a business partner reneges on a deal that you had agreed. These acts are conscious and with little consideration of how you feel. So understanding which of these is most true in the case in which you're feeling the pain from helps you to overcome the negative emotions and move past the incident. Don't you agree? You want to know which one was done maliciously and which one was done accidentally because the guy's a complete, or the woman is a complete idiot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of the guy or the woman, you have to examine that relationship where you were hurt. Someone you cared about hurts you, but how much emotional pain are you really in? Now, it depends on how close you are to that person. True?
100%. Yeah.
Because after a betrayal, you probably
in that relationship.
Correct, emotionally invested in that relationship. Because after a betrayal, you probably find yourself asking just how much that person means to you. At the end of the day, betrayal by a friend that you drifted apart from, and who you now see, no more than once or maybe twice a year, is going to feel very different. Say from a betrayal by a spouse or girlfriend or anybody, a family member who is very much a major part of your life. So how much you value that relationship will determine whether you choose to keep that person in your life or ditch them for good. And we'll talk about it later in the program. But at that point, you're trying to remember remaining geographically distant, and that's necessary. And sometimes you just want to leave the people who actually cause you a lot of pain all the time, especially if they're not that attached to you to begin with, and yet they've betrayed your trust. Agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
You've had to deal with a lot of that on a personal level as well, right? Because like Lauren said, your expectations always hurt no matter what. Mm-hmm. And you expect someone to be a certain way, and it's not.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to get too down in the details about it, because I'm someone who really, doesn't like sharing the personal information and being, breaking that trust elsewhere. Even if someone's wronged me, I still try to keep a tight lip. But I've certainly ran into situations like this in the past relationships, and whether it's a past relationship, a family member, or a friend that you've trusted, it is going to hurt and directly correlated with how much you've invested into it mentally, emotionally, sometimes financially, into that relationship. And there's no cookie cutter approach to moving forward.
I am doing what I'm not supposed to do, just trying to figure out who you're talking about. But it's okay. Sometimes I have to tell you, it does help to talk to a third party. In these betrayal, hurt situations, it can help to talk through the incident and the feelings you have with someone who's a trusted confidant, a psychologist maybe, or even your mate, your spouse. So it can be cathartic, to express your emotions outwardly and tell another soul about what's going on in your head and your heart right now. But the crucial thing, though, is to talk to somebody who's able to remain fairly, though not entirely, neutral. You know what I mean? Absolutely. So the reason for being neutral is they can then offer you honest advice and not just say what it is they think you want to hear. Constructive feedback about how you plan to deal with that situation and all of that. What you don't want is somebody to just say yes or no just to make you feel good, and or have a woman who will, I don't know, gee you on, uh, as your bitch or something like that about your betrayer. They add fuel to the fire, so to speak. Yeah, that goddamn motherfucker, that scorpion, so on and so forth. No, at that time, it may be good to have friends like that, but it will not help you through your feelings. Agreed?
Yeah.
What is that dinging constantly? Is that something being
sorry
baked?
about that. I think one of my phones here is not on silent.
Oh, okay. I thought you guys were baking muffins or something.
Oh, actually, Ellie did just bake some brand new protein muffins this morning.
Oh,
I'm absolutely blessed.
you are. I miss her muffin. That didn't sound right. I miss her muffins. Tell her. I said that. Is oop. Are you serious? Yeah, I miss her cookies. Oh, that didn't sound right either. But I miss her muffins and her cookies. You know what I mean? Yeah. And they're so good, and she's just an amazing. And yet she's so self-effacing. Say no, they can be better. But they would never. Even the cookies from the bakery that we always get, those limits cookies, the ones that clean you out. I think hers are a lot better eventually than the ones from the bakery. Have you been back to the bakery?
We went back this morning. Just stopped by Costa's, grabbed a cookie on the way, a little bit of breakfast. But Ellie's cookies really are so much better than anything baked out there in any of the shops.
And you try not to visit too many shops because of that. You try to remain with the one baker.
I have no need for other shops.
Bakers. We're talking about bakers. Lauren said something interesting. He says, the only thing I ever say is that the town was too small for both of us, so I left. That's why Lawrence has seen a lot of the world. He's been everywhere, but he's the one leaving. Isn't that funny? You have a fight with a girlfriend or mate or spouse or boyfriend, and you said, I'm leaving. And then you walk out, and about 100 meters later, you suddenly realize you just left your own house. They're still stuck in there. You can't get them out. I don't know. But all of this, we're talking about emotional pain and the things you need to do. And yes, we did not go in a systematic way, but we talked about how normal people deal with things, and even psychologists. All of the things you need to do, one of the most important is not to be with a person that says, hey, you're right. The person is an asshole, idiot, whatever it is you want to call them. And because it doesn't help you to process the emotions. You need to reflect on that. You need to reflect on things, because when the dust settles a little bit and your feelings are less raw, you may benefit from a period of introspection. When Luke, for instance, been through, I know pretty much a lot of what you've been through. There's some stuff I don't know. And I've seen that the time away, it wasn't instant. It's not like all the books say and everything can be done instantly and everything, which I learned the hard way, not from school so much, but from actual life, that it takes time, sometimes years, months, before you start to look inward and understand the things that happen in your life, the pain, the betrayal, the happiness, everything, the aftermath. The longer you have time to reflect, then you find that the long-term consequences in your life were significant. If that thing ended or you felt in a different way. So sometimes you may want to reflect on your thoughts or your feelings and your behaviors immediately after you were betrayed, and consider how you might maybe avoid similar situations in the future, to act differently if you could encounter somebody else like that. Agree?
Absolutely. how you want. It's good to see how you want to respond to it, how you could have responded to it better. I mean, ultimately, everything in life. There's a saying that it's life is 5% what happens to you and 95% how you react to it. And our entire life, we're constantly, or most of us, are learning about how we react to things and how we can do that better going forward. How we can deal with the stresses of different relationships and betrayals going forward. Um, that can be a really liberating thing. I remember for a long while I had a very good friend in Chicago, and I would confide in her about a lot of my struggles, and she left me with one piece of advice that's really stuck with me through all these years. And she said, everything in life is a gift. Some things are just gifts in strange wrapping paper. And I didn't understand what she meant at first. Um, but the more I look back at, all these things that I've had time to heal from, I realize how much, these painful moments have really opened up, a massive number of opportunities. It's opened up a massive space for growth. And, there really was a lesson and a blessing in each one of these pains and each one of these so-called traumas.
There was a change of perspective that worked for me more than 10 years ago when I was contemplating. I was going through that phase when we were starting to see invisible things and the whole spiritual hoo-ha thing that we were going through. And not that we're not going through it now, we are, but it seems the hoo-ha is a lot less and it's becoming a little bit more practical. And I remember when we were talking about some people are gifts in our lives, we have to also remember that even as they're parting, even if they've taken, sometimes we are the gift in their life. And so there's nothing in it for us to receive. Sometimes we are the gift to people and we don't see that. And so for whatever reason, even though they're no longer there and so on and so forth, they go on. They receive a sort of learning or maturity or a presence of mind where they're able to live a better life. And most times than not, it's a better life without you. Because both of you together may end up being volatile, like a catalyst that inflames, like dynamite is made of inert materials, but put them all together, shit hits the fan and everything else. Absolutely. And some people are just meant to be different.
We can't be offended when they pull out the gift receipt.
Return to sender, and but you're not going to get your money back. That much I know. No, deserve the side swipe. Yeah. Let's not go there. Oh, it's related to what Lauren says too, and how apropos this is, and what I'm saying is not bad mouthing my children's mother as well. See, by doing that, he has already given us some idea about bad mouthing the children's mother. No, it's about me not telling my ex-wife that she's a bitch. I'm not going to do that. Hello, what have I done? We just did it. I'm not gonna say the word penis on radio. Okay, Luke, understand this. What have I done? I've done that, so and so forth. I don't know, but Lawrence, I appreciate the gesture anyway. It's true. The children's psychology was primary, And then when you're dealing with something or reflecting on a relationship that ended or the pain that's caused and so on and so forth, from a psychology perspective, to get the most benefit from reflecting and everything, most psychologists suggest that you focus not on asking the why-based questions. Why did this happen? Why me? Why, blah, blah, blah? But ask what-based questions instead. what are the elements that created it? What are the conditions that made this happen, and so on and so forth. So the theory, as I'm summarizing here in this discussion with Luke, goes that by asking why something happened or why you felt or acted in a way keeps you trapped in this past, ruminating over the events, as if they are truth. And what we're remembering is not the truth. What we're remembering is a truth, our truth. So it may also instill kind of a victim mentality where you focus on what has been done to you and who is to blame for it. So what, on the other hand, is a very proactive question. What am I feeling? What are my options? What will really matter most to me 5 years from now after this is over? Those are very important things, because these are all forward-thinking questions that can lead you away from the betrayal or the pain and towards a place where you can actually heal and recover and actually thrive and be better for it as well. So reflect by all means, but try to make it productive reflection that doesn't allow you to dwell too much on the thing itself, but seeks to move on. I don't know if you've heard me say this often enough, Luke, to people even now who are around me and close to me. I said, the way you describe situations is like emotional masturbation. You're just going through the past, going through the people who betrayed you, going through the pain you're feeling, and you're just masturbating like crazy. And so, like most forms of masturbation, you should do it quietly and alone. Don't you agree?
100%. And, it's one step beyond that. I mean, you have some people that fall into the habit of, they like to identify with these traumas, identify with these pains, and they'll sit at the coffee shop and with their girlfriends or boyfriends, and it's constant whining about, oh, this happened and that happened, and at that point it becomes an emotional circle jerk, and it's a cycle that has to be broken at some point.
But differs though. Circle jerk is like done by a bunch of people, isn't it?
Oh, that's exactly what happens when you sit there and you gossip about your problems, everyone else's problems.
Yes,
right?
group therapy.
Yeah.
Okay. No one's life. I don't know if you know it, but now you have become the coffee shop guru, right? Because you're sitting there, people know you're related to me, and they're talking to you. I don't know if they ever say, "Hey, how's your dad?" Does anybody even do that, or even say, is he dead or alive?
Absolutely. Actually, I was just sitting there with Victor this morning. He sends his regards. Martine, everyone misses you here.
Tell Victor I miss him too. Yes, tell him I miss him. What I'm saying is that when you are out there, because Costa is right now more open, because it's literally on the boulevard, the Cherno More Boulevard, and then you begin to realize as they sit down and talk with you, no one's life is free of disappointments or losses. Have you noticed that? We meet it in the death of a loved one, loss of a job, the loss of a relationship, or maybe even a dream somebody had lost somewhere along the way. But with all of this stuff happening with COVID and everything else, you kind of feel that you have a strong desire for something. So we pray with all our hearts and souls, and all we get as a reply, or those people get as a reply, is a closed door or a not yet or a no, even worse. And so what do you do when you try to help them? Because no matter what the situation is, all of these guys are suffering these things, but few of us know how to handle the suffering well. Is that a way of saying handle the suffering, or maybe even to suffer well? We got a little bit Buddhistic here in the discussion, but what I'm trying to get is, and I need your feedback on this, What do we do when we're faced with grief, or when we seem to be going nowhere sometimes? I don't know.
How do we learn how to suffer effectively?
Yeah, because when you try to fight it, you fight it really hard, right? You like I did. So, and I think one time when I talked to a priest a long time ago, this was 25 years ago, the priest told me a simple thing which stuck in my head to today. You're on the cross and you're trying to walk off it. I said, "Oh, really?" He's right. You have to accept the fact that you're suffering, and then the work can begin, whether it's yours or God's or whatever. I don't know. You've been in those situations before where you've had to be honest with yourself, and you can't pretend that maybe we come to discussions where God is dead. He's not answering your prayers. Well, let's go to the other guy. Maybe he does, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. I mean, if one door doesn't open, you got to try the other ones. Knock on them all. Thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate that.
Say hello for me.
She's just heading back into the other room to tune in.
To watch the program. And she just delivered her man his little cookie and muffin, his drink, so that he's okay.
A little bit more coffee to stay going.
And then she can leave into the other room and do her thing and be summoned back when necessary to do. I've been very bad for you since while I've been there. I've been saying, Ellie, why are you serving him? What's wrong with you? So anyway, it's just nobody serves me, Luke. So sad. Maybe I'm just upset about that. I shouldn't upset your cart. I forgot what we were talking about. Oh yes, pain. And how do you deal with the people that come to you who are in pain? What advice do you give them? Since you've been through windows and doors.
It largely depends on what the pain is around. There is no cookie cutter approach, but I think if you're able to reframe the pain for yourself in a healthy way, it's a lot easier to cope with. When it's not something that's happened to you but happened for you, and you're open and optimistic enough to see that there's many things that have happened to you in the past that didn't go the way that you wanted in the moment, but did it lead you to the right path? Did it lead you to something better? And when you're able to remind yourself that these things have occurred in the past, and in the moment you couldn't see the blessings that life had in store for you, they did come. The blessings did come eventually. And we might not be able to see the path and exactly what's meant for us. That doesn't mean that it isn't there. And
it's like let's call it a God force that seems to have its own timing. And the timing is not related to you per se and what your needs are, but it has its own timing. Because it's multi-dimensional, multi-layered, multi-time, omni, everything.
And I mean, the other thing is there's a lot of things that we label as needs. They're not really needs; they're wants. We, up until this point, every single one of us has been given everything we need. It's not what we want, but
I was waiting for more.
Yeah, I know. We all were, but they were wants. They weren't needs.
No, I need to hear more. You're gonna leave it just like that with just that one statement?
No, I mean, I'm not sure if I can add more to that.
I don't understand.
You don't understand.
Yes.
Hmm. Do you need
You
to
mean to say that
understand?
if I examine my life so far, I've gotten everything I needed? Is that what you're saying? But not.
Yeah. I mean, when I'll use myself as an example. After my first breakup with my first love, we were several years in, and I thought
New
that,
York.
yeah, New York,
Okay.
Hawaii, Chicago. I mean,
Okay.
this at the time, I thought she was the love of my life. She was going to be the mother of my children. I wanted nothing more but than to marry her and start a family. And some things occurred. We were both young. We were both very silly, and um, situations didn't go as planned. Um, but initially after that breakup, I there was a piece of me that really wanted and had hoped um, to make things work. Um, and now looking back so many years later, I'm able to see, how much that time apart, how many experiences that opened both me up to, but also opened her up to for her own personal growth. And it seems like there was a greater plan there, um, that that actually served a greater good. And so in the moment, even though it was the most pain I had ever felt, I couldn't imagine my life going on without her. Um, I just literally, an entire future that I had pictured just crumbled before my eyes. At one point, I had almost felt, actually, I had felt a little bit suicidal, um, because I couldn't picture a future that was different. I had everything all planned out. Um, but since then, I look back and I see what a blessing it's been that, I've had all these experiences. She's had all these experiences. And, if we can constantly remind ourselves that there have been moments in our life that things did not go as planned, that we have felt pain before and it led to something better, all we have to do is, have trust in the plan. And that's a hard thing to do for a lot of people. I mean, we naturally as humans want to control. We want to be in control.
One of the deadly needs. Yeah.
Yeah, a need or a want.
Mm-hmm. True. Give me a girl's name, any name, hypothetical.
Um, Angelina.
There was a new psychologist that was taken to this psychiatric hospital, and the orderly, it's his job to show him around. And he came to the first room, and he sees a man on a bed, and the man is crying and crying, and he's sitting up against the pillows and crying, and tears are soaking his nightgown and everything. He says, "What happened to him?" Oh, yeah, that's a guy who fell in love with Angelina, and she just dumped him, after about 10 years. Said, oh my God, that really hurts. And then he goes to, let me take you to the next room. And there's a guy on a bed, and he's tied down to the bed, and he's going flaying left, right, and center, and screaming his head off. And Angelina, he's screaming, Angelina. I said, what happened to him? Oh, that's the guy that Angelina left at the altar. I was just about to marry him, and left him at the altar. He said, oh my God, Angelina gets around in this hospital a lot, mental hospital. And then he finally comes to a room where the guy's in a straitjacket, and he's all tied up and he's throwing himself against the padded walls, and he looks through the window and said, "What happened to him?" Because the guy's screaming, "Angelina, Angelina," is bleeding from his head from banging on the walls and everything. I said, "Angelina as well? She dumped him or something?" I said, "No, that's the guy that married Angelina." So he lost his marbles. So what you're saying is that sometimes a force greater than us realizes that what is good for us may not have been that person we thought would spend an entire future with us. That sometimes that force knows to end something, and sometimes it's very difficult to end something and disengage you from something without pain, especially since you're holding on too tightly. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. 100%.
Absolutely, 100%. I wouldn't know what to do if you said 95%, Luke, because we'll talk about the other 5%. But I'm so glad it is 100%. You said also that we didn't want to take this to 2 hours as we did the last time with all these programs. So I put in the down below there on the right the details. So if you want to make a point, if you want to come on the show, if you want to ask a question, now is a good time to ask the question before we end the show as well, or to come on and say hello and talk about your perspective of how to get over betrayal and everything. I don't think we are finished with this so much, Luke. We gave some idea, how to limit, I guess, our suffering by when we start to experience more pain. But when I started to tell them how to deal with it, you gave a very good perspective, which I want to touch on Friday, if you don't mind, on how to experience pain, but more successfully. That's a very good perspective. I like that. I think nothing really puts things or puts life into perspective like death. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yep.
Because I think it was Heidegger, the psychologist, who said that if I take death into my life and I acknowledge it and I face it squarely, I will free myself from the anxiety of death and the pettiness of life. And only then will I be free to become myself. And we're all afraid of dying. And I suspect that that's part of what the ego does to stay alive. Because transcendence, when you eliminate that fear of death, then you transcend. You have transcendence. And transcendence constitutes self-actualization and selfhood. You become authentic. Mm-hmm. When you understand that there's no permanence in life and realize that all meaning is a matter of perspective,
Yeah. I mean, I've had some relationships that completely removed my fear of death. It was something I was willing to run towards at certain points.
Yeah. I remember
Different story,
any sport that you could kill yourself with, that's what you did, and as well. So
makes you feel alive.
Makes you feel alive. Yes, the adrenaline flow. So sometimes you have to meditate on the worst case scenario, and then just let it go. Mm-hmm. Sort of. You know what I think you had done with your life? Can I tell you?
Please, yeah.
Maybe it's an overview for a book you might learn to want to write, because you have learned how to transform suffering, into an art. Now, I'm not saying that in the way in which it sounds, but everybody discusses philosophical problems. We sit at the coffee shop with Maria and all her friends and everybody, and they're all gurus and this and this and that, and ultimately you just roll your eyes at them. But we get over these philosophical problems, basically. You know what I mean? And when all these people are saying it's not the path which is the difficulty, it's the difficulty which is the path, is what you were saying, by the way.
Yeah, precisely.
And that you'll have more of this. And so maybe you should come from that perspective and live your life that way. Think of it that way.
Just like Lawrence said, memento mori.
Memento mori. That's it. That's it. Life is short. Very short. And we should learn to do that. So if you have any questions for Mr. Luke Gill and myself, please feel free to either write it here or write it in the YouTube or Facebook live, and we'll answer it for you. If not, if you want to come in as well, Ashok or Lawrence, you've not come on at all, and I would love to have you on this show as a guest. Maybe you may not want to be in at the end, but we'll have you in the beginning, maybe on Friday. And Selena says, it's a good question. I guess he was talking about looking. She or he? I think she. Selena is I have no idea. Anyway, let me know. This looking at the eyes thing, that actually has done a lot for me, because I didn't know what I was doing. Not right now. You're looking at me, or it feels like if I'm looking at you on the screen. Just to let you know.
Okay. I'm switching between, actually, when I'm looking at you, it's actually me looking at me.
Whatever turns you on, Luke, it's good. Joycelyn says, you want to read what Joycelyn says?
Yeah, actually, let me hold that to the side. That's true. There's a greater plan that you couldn't see right after the breakups. You only realize that as years go by. Better days always coming. Focus on your life. Count the blessings, which life itself. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. We have to. Should be grateful for all that we have.
That's the title of Luke's next book, 100% or Nothing. 100%. He agrees. Okay, focus on your life, count the blessings, which and the blessings is life itself. So the difficulty is the path. It's not that the path is to get past the difficulty or to succumb it in any way. I think life is difficult by its very nature. And when we try to solve it, look inside, we begin to realize that the difficulty is perception, or it's a matter of perception. Perspective, sorry. It's a matter of perspective. And if you begin to realize that life is difficulty, and how you respond is everything in the world. And how you respond now means that you have to do several things. Literally what Lauren says, embrace the moment.
Embrace the moment, yeah.
Or amor fati, embrace fate, whatever your fate is. That's Nietzsche. Nietzsche's theme, amor fati, embrace your fate. Good or bad, it's your fate. Those are all perceptions.
Absolutely, embrace it, and while embracing fate, also take as much responsibility as you can. One thing, I've got serenity tattooed on my arm here. This is to remind me of the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And
that's from Alcoholics Anonymous, just to let you know. That is their theme.
I think it applies to
everything. Yes.
And a lot of the time we're trying to change our external world. We're trying to change these other people that have wronged us, when really what we need to be looking at is what can we change in ourselves, because that's what's within our control. And when we change ourselves and our inner world, a reflection of our outer world changes as well.
True. But let me give you a personal perspective on that. Sometimes it's good to be away from everybody and not have to deal with them. If you have to deal with them, yes, you're stuck because of ooh, ha, 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 whatever, then okay. But do you know that that's our being in Bulgaria has been the greatest blessing? I mean, yes. Do you remember the first day or the first year you were there? After about 2 weeks, you were very upset. This is how many years ago? 7, 8 years ago? How many years ago was
an
that?
Understatement. Yeah.
And we were walking back from, it was nighttime. I remember it was dark. It was 9 p.m., was it? We finished with Costa. At that time, we finished having a meal at Happy's. And then we came back. Costa sat down. Then we walked back, and you were asking me. You said, "Dad, can I ask you a question? Can I speak my mind?" I said, "Sure, always." And you said, "Why the goddamn fuck?" And those like F words every 20, 30. I lost count how many there was in just a few sentences. And you said, "What the? Are we doing in this godforsaken bumfuck?" No, and I couldn't stop laughing. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. Very
Yeah.
vividly.
Yeah. Now, how do you feel about the place?
Since then, I've had a lot of experiences that have put things in perspective, and I
In English, in simple English, yes. Now you see what?
I see what a blessing, and opportunities and really.
Are you being sarcastic or serious? I mean, forget about opportunities and all that, but isn't that a gorgeous place to be?
It's a beautiful place to be, and it's given me an opportunity to really heal myself in a way that a lot of other cities on the planet, I don't think I could have done that. I wouldn't have had that opportunity away from the hustle and bustle of London or Singapore or New York, where there's a lot more going on to distract me from work.
Earlier today, when I talked with you, you called me and you were at the Costa, the new Costa, where you met Victor and everybody. And
in there.
Yeah, Victor is the manager of this new Costa, and Victor is a friend. I mean, I don't know how many of you ever had this experience where you go away for a few months and you come back to a coffee shop, and the manager of the coffee shop comes out from we're talking a chain coffee shop, and he comes out from behind the coffee shop, leaves what he's doing, gives you the biggest hug in the world, and says, "Mel, welcome back." And it's like it brings tears to your eyes. It's like people who genuinely know you by name, because it's not so big. It's fairly small town. And I love it when all the people leave in the summer and there's just Varnavites. I don't know what to call them. Varnanians. It sounds like I'm talking about outer space people. Let's call them Varnavites. Are left. It's fairly cold. And you have the whole place to yourself. And today when I saw you sitting there, I was saying to myself, wow, that's where I'd rather be right now. Sit there and have a cup of coffee, watch the sea. I don't know if you get a view of the sea from there. I think you're closer to it for sure.
From there, I'm definitely closer to it, but you have to walk down a little bit farther to get a full view. But yeah, I mean it's absolutely gorgeous.
And how blessed you are to be there.
Very grateful for it.
A great place to build a relationship, a great place to put all of the negatives in your life behind you, a great place to plan your next assault on the world, internet-wise or otherwise. what you're going to do to make a big name for yourself, or do whatever to make your place in the world, or to serve, even sometimes the best way to know how. You know, I have to tell you something. As much as I spent my life trying to get away from, or not away from, but over addictions, to everything that I was addicted to before. I don't know if you know it, but you've seen my alcohol cabinet and all that, unused for 20 years. The only people that use them are you and Aurora.
I might have used it a little bit, yeah.
Yes. And I remember you were here at the American school and you were sneaking out, and when you walk very quickly past me out the door, I know you have something under your jacket, and it's usually some liquid thing and stuff. And then to work through addictions to pleasure, relationships, stimulation, whatever the case might be. It's been my work to the point where I don't need them anymore. It's not necessary, because I now validate myself. I mean, if they exist, they're great, fantastic, wonderful. It's good to have them, but you don't depend on them so much. And now I realize that I'm beginning to be addicted to something else, which means that I may die soon, because I'm addicted to life.
Oh,
okay. Yeah. No, really, I am. Every day I wake up, Luke, I'm like, it's, even with all the problems, even with all the issues, even with all the, I couldn't even say people that you have to deal with, and them blaming you for their lives. It's like, wow, I'm alive.
That's a good addiction to have.
Is it? Is it?
Yeah.
Well, what does it mean? What does it mean, though?
Life, you could fit that on 4 fingers. That's
huh? Oh. No, actually, I'm not. He's talking about Four Fingers Chicken, which is like a Korean chicken joint. It's kind of replaced the whole McDonald's thing. But yeah, you'd be surprised. I could actually leave it. Hey, I've got chocolate in the fridge I have not touched for months. It's not that. It's just that every day I'm just, and even if I did eat that, it made no difference. It's not I gotta have. And there are very few things I gotta have, except tomorrow, waking up, seeing the sun or the rain, and just alive. Just very happy to meet and know people like you. Your sister, your grandmother, even the people who are total finish the sentence for me.
Blessings in disguise to our life.
Wow,
strange wrapping paper.
Strange is a good word.
Yeah.
Wrapping is a good word. I wouldn't use paper after that, but even with these strange people, it's amazing. Challenging. Yes, challenging people. Lawrence is so diplomatic. He must be a diplomat. What does he do for a living? He talks about inner peace. That's true. There is an inner peace. It's like I don't need anything. Even though we're striving to some very huge things, it's not a small thing to want to go to space. Do you know what I mean? And to actually be working on it. And right now I've just begun. I don't know if you realize it, Luke. I've just begun on that because it works. I've just begun on the filing a patent. Bartender, why do you? Of course you would be. You would have the right words. And who is better than a psychologist at understanding people's emotions? A bartender. Except that a bartender is more useful than a psychologist, because a psychologist will take forever to da da da, and he'll just give you one glass and that's it. Here you go. That works wonders instantly. Lawrence, it's so cool. I would love to have you on the show on Friday. Please be prepared to come on and share your wisdom. Let's have a little chat. I want to keep these programs speaking about very important things, and giving them people. I'm giving people a way to come out of their pain and all of that. But today we talked about how to deal with pain and suffering and all of that. Friday, Luke will lead the discussion on how to, what did we say, turn to suffer well. Almost, you will be Buddha too.
Yeah.
Okay. And what to do, not to avoid, because suffering is a part of life, but to be able to do that. And he just went out of the studio. I don't know how that happened, but he'll come back on at some point as well. I didn't touch any buttons, Luke. So if you're still listening, just to let you know, you just went off, and I think it's your computer that kicked you off at some point. Also, at the same time, it will be a good time to end this this program, since we are here. When we talk about experiences that we've had, experiences that we're having, it seems as if we're talking about spilled milk or spilled soup. And I remember the Hindu sage in one of the beautiful books written in the Vedas, the Ramana Maharishi books, and the sages that spoke. Wanting to reform the world, he said, without discovering one's true self is like trying to cover the world with leather to avoid the pain of walking on stones and thorns. It's much simpler sometimes to wear shoes. So what he meant by that basically is that you have to see, everybody personalizes and projects to the world. Personalizing is mistaking what happens in the world as always having to do with you. You're the cause of it. An extreme example would be when, as a child who doesn't do his or her homework and learns the next day that a plane went down somewhere in the world, that somehow he or she believes that she was responsible for that, and not because she didn't do her homework. A more common adult version of this, and less extreme, is when your partner comes home sullen and moody, and you immediately believe that somehow it's your fault. So projecting is the reverse. It occurs when we place the things that happen in us onto the world around us. And often unknowingly, we attribute our fears and our frustrations to others. So rather than accept my own anger, I would see you as angry. So a general statement, example would be that if I'm afraid of dogs, I protect my children from dogs. And without asking how they feel or keep them away from dogs too as well, it becomes something I must do because it concerns me and just me alone, without referring to the world and how the world would react different from me. So a subtle example of this is when someone is crying and we say there's no need to be upset because we are uncomfortable with all of that emotion of the tears. Or when we keep asking the other person if they're okay, when it is we who are not okay because of that situation. So the truth is that no one can avoid personalizing or projecting. There are only those of us who are aware of it and those of us who are not. And only those of us who own it when it happens and those of us who don't. But this difference is crucial. Not owning these things can end relationships. Owning them can deepen relationships. Humans have spilled soup for eternity, my friends. And generations have made excuses saying it was the earth. The earth shifted. And generations have secretly thought he meant to do it. She meant to do it. If you want to save the world, then when you spill soup, simply say, I'm sorry, I spilled the soup. Accountability is the first step into enlightenment. The second step is to realize that you control nothing at all. I want to thank you for being part of this show on Common Sense. I didn't know what happened to Luke just now. It's unfortunate he cut out at I don't know what happened at that point, but we will return on Friday at 9:30 p.m. Singapore time, 9:30 a.m. New York time, and 4:30 p.m. Bulgarian time. Please tune in. Be ready to ask questions. And Lawrence, be ready to be part of the show as well. It would be my honor to have you on board. That discussion with Luke and I. I also read from your books daily. Thank you, Lawrence, for your support. Good night, everybody. I hope tomorrow will be as kind to you as you're going to be to everyone around you. Realizing that love is... I have no words for it. Life is amazing. I'm becoming more and more addicted to it. Good night.